Well, Mary, thanks very much indeed for arranging everybody to come down to.
You're very welcome, Sheila.
That's fantastic.
You're coming back home to your grandfather's home.
Well, as the Americans say, home to my roots.
Yes, and you're so welcome, Sheila.
Thank you very much.
And my dearest mother and father, they loved DeValera. We all loved him.
Yeah.
And he was just like a member of our family. His first cousin lived here, and she was like our aunt, and we were always together.
Yeah.
We just loved them. And we were so fond of your grandfather, President DeValera. And this is the sign for his cottage.
Yes.
It is in Knockmore, Bruree, County Limerick. The same address as my own home. I lived over here across the road, my home. And there were 6 of us in the family, 1 boy and 5 girls. So Helen is here today, my elder sister.
Yes, I met her
and
earlier
Mary,
on.
Breda and Joan.
Yes.
And Nora, my sister, is in the convent in Dublin. And my brother Jerry has gone to heaven. Yeah, but we all loved DeValera, and he loved to listen to us when we were playing at school, you know, children, and he would often play with us. And he would often talk to us there when we would come home from school, and he would say, Slán live, he would talk in Irish, Dias Murragut,
and very much so.
Dias Murragut, and he would meet all the neighbours, and he would talk to us in Irish, you know.
Yes.
So it was all very interesting and lovely. We just loved him. And he would, Lizzie would, you know, his first cousin, she would say, Slán let. And sometimes she would say, Slán live. And then we would be giggling. And we would say, which should we answer? Is it Slán live or is it Slán let? That was nice.
One way to learn,
It was one way to learn. But you know, DeValera used to meet all the neighbours around here. Ned Kent used to live in the cottage.
Yes.
And he knew him very well, and he would always want to meet Ned Kent, and he would want to meet the Sullivans, and he would want to meet the Davies down the road, and the Carrolls, and the Lyonses, all the people that lived around here.
Well, his whole philosophy of life and his whole political philosophy was based on the life that he led.
Yes, it was.
He was very much
Sheila.
influenced by all of his relatives and his friends here in this part of Limerick.
And he said when we had dinner with him up at Oris and Uachtaráin, my father and mother and myself, we had dinner with him, and his wife Sinead, and he said, Mary, he said, I love every blade of grass in Knockmore.
Oh yes, very much.
Yeah,
So.
he really loved it.
We used to hear great stories from him.
Yes, I would say so. He used to huddle up in the fields there.
Yes.
And he used to just loved walking by the river.
About you know, walking along this road and the 7 miles to school.
That's right. Now he walked from here to Bruree, and then he would walk along another road. It was a little road, the back road up to Charleville, which was about 7 miles. And he walked to school and walked home again. And he used to mind the cows, maybe 1 or 2 cows, and they would be on the long acre.
Yeah, I remember.
And he would take care of them.
That,
And another interesting thing, when he came here to live here in 1885, April 1885, his grandmother was still here.
Yes.
And his Uncle Pat. And when his Uncle Pat got married, you know, years later, he actually served the breakfast, the wedding breakfast.
Oh, really?
I think that's a lovely story.
That's a lovely connection.
Isn't it?
Lovely.
And there was one day that he slinged from school, and he spent it over near my house in the stable. So he stayed there all day. But he was humble enough to admit it. Yes. He was a great character.
And we'll be going up to see the school later on.
We will.
Yeah.
And we will go to see my home in Knockmore, just across the road.
Yeah.
And we will also go to see Helen Mullane's home. My sister Helen lives here all the time.
Yes.
And her nieces, or my nieces and nephews, are all around here.
And we'll be
the place hasn't changed very much. It's just as it was in DeValera's time.
Well, not many places that you can say that about now. It's lovely that it hasn't
I think it's
changed.
beautiful. I just love this place
Beautiful
too.
part of the country. Really
So now, Sheila, we will go along and show you DeValera's cottage, right?
Lovely, lovely.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Hello.
something in there too. Who knows? Now I would like to introduce you to President DeValera's cousin, Lizzie's son, Martin. Martin, I'm delighted you're here today. Delighted.
Thank you, Mary.
We were great
very kind
friends
of you.
long ago, and your dearest mother was so nice to us and so kind to us as children. We loved her. And now I want to introduce you to Helen, my sister Helen Mullane. She lives here just behind the cottage in Knockfenora, Bruree. And she has 6 in family, 3 boys and 3 girls. Now I want to introduce you to Breda. Breda lives in Limerick, and she is the lady who used to do all the cooking for DeValera whenever he came down. She would help Lizzie. Lizzie would say, Breda, will you come out and help me with the teas, make the bread, brown bread, and that was it. And now Joan, my sister Joan, my youngest sister, she also made the brown bread and cakes for DeValera. It was a great honour. We loved him, but we really loved Lizzie. That would be Martin's mother. And she was like a mother to us. We just loved her. We had great times, happy times, and DeValera used to play with us and, you know, walk around the fields with us. He loved walking by the river. He loved walking around the fields and talking to all the neighbours, the Sullivans, the Lineses, and all the neighbours, Regans, Brosnans, all of them. So that's my story. Well, Martin, have you got something to say now? Martin is the cousin.
Well, there isn't very much left to say except that I grew up in this house, which Eamon DeValera also grew up in, and in which my grandfather and grandmother reared him in. And it was always a great treat to have him arrive here. In fact, I was never allowed to have sweets until he insisted that he give me a big bag of sweets when I was about 4 years of age. And that was my first introduction to sweets. So he used to come every opportunity that he had, which when he was in government wasn't very often, but when he was in the opposition, he used to come every summer for a few days and visit the Sheehans across the road that time, Mary and her parents and brother, Dr. Mercy and Jerry and sisters. And he always visited Sullivan's as well, the next house up here. And he had a great affection for old Mrs. O'Sullivan, who would be Dennis's mother, the present Sullivan's grandmother. She was a native of Kerry, and he used to visit her as a child, and he used to constantly talk of her, and for some particular reason he had a great rapport with her. And there was another man, Mr. O'Mahony, who went to Chicago. He lived in the Sheehan's farm across the road, and he used to write and communicate with the O'Mahonys for years after they left. He used to play football and rugby over there, and he used to also shoot the land when he was in his 20s, early 20s. So that is about all I can think of offhand.
That's very interesting,
to say.
But I know you have lots of stories, but you know, it would take all day.
Oh, we could be here all day.
Yeah, And your son, I would like to introduce Martin's son, David.
This is David.
Yes. David Maher. And what age are you, David?
15.
15. And where do you go to school? Charleville. Yeah, same school as DeValera went to.
More modern, I think. You know.
More modern. Yes, I know. Do they talk to you about Dave?
What?
Would they ask you questions about DeValera?
No.
No.
Don't believe me, I believe.
They don't
believe you.
Yeah.
No.
But you look very like them. You look like Eamon DeValera.
Yeah.
Oh yes, very like them. Yes, yes, very like them. Yes. So we're delighted to have David here today. And now Helen might like to say a few words. Helen lives very nearby.
Well, my father died in 1968, and the president promised my mother that he would come and make a private visit to her, which she didn't think that he could do. He was so busy. So he held to his word, and in 1974 he made a private visit to see her and spent most of the day at home in Knockmore and visited Steph, of course. Well, then he came back to where I'm living, in Knockfenora, and he drove the state.
1972.
He drove the state car back the passage, and he was telling some of my children to get into it. So they were very hesitant about it, and I said to them to go into it, that it would be the last time. It's the first time and the last time that the state car would ever drive through the yard in Knockfenora. So he drove down 3 fields to the well, which he was mad about. He loved the water out of that particular well, and he told me that he planted a tree, and he told me that he used to love going back to that particular field to read the book, The Life of Napoleon. That's about it.
That's lovely, Helen. That's very interesting.
Mm.
Very, very interesting.
My name is Mary Milan. I live in Knockmore, just up the road here. We're here today to welcome Sheila DeValera. She's on a visit, visiting the cottage behind us here in the background. Now I'd like to introduce you to the people here that came to welcome her today. David Maher, Mary Doorty, who is living in Clare, who brought Sheila up today, Nora Gorman, who is the caretaker of the cottage, Sheila DeValera herself, Conor O'Brien, who is a friend of the Milan family, Michael Milan, who lives in the farm behind us here, Martin Maher, who is a relative of DeValera, Kieran Milan, Helen Milan, who is living just back the passage back here in the farm as well, Shannon Brosnan, living in the area, her mother Bernie, Kerry and Tara Brosnan. This is Michael Milan here, Shane Milan and Noel Brosnan, who's living down in Howardstown, which is only about a mile down the road. Breda Sheehan, who used to live in the farm just at the other side of the road here, Sheehan's farm, and beside Breda is Martin Mack, who is a friend of Mary Doherty's down in Clare, down in Kilfenora. Beside Martin is Martina Piggott, and beside Martina is her mother Joan, who is also Sheehan from the farm across the road. I think. We're now going inside the cottage to have a look at the interior of the cottage. Now I would like to introduce you to one of our best friends around here, Nora Daly, and she's O'Gorman. She's Mrs. O'Gorman, but her name was Nora Daly, and the Dalys.
Oh, to have a little house, to own the hut and stool and all, the heaped up sods upon the fire, the pile of turf against the wall. I could be busy all the day, cleaning and sweeping the hearth and floor, and fixing on the shelf again my white and blue and speckled store. Oh, but I am weary of bog and road, and roads where there's never a house or a bush. And I'm praying to God, I'm praying Him night and day for a little house, a house of my own, out of the wind and the rain's way. Do you like that, Nora? Now I would like to introduce you to Nora Daly, and she's Mrs. O'Gorman, living in Knockmore, Bruree. And she was a great friend here always of the DeValera and Cull family, Lizzie Cull. She was always helping them, a great neighbour. Isn't that right, Nora?
Yes,
And you're the caretaker here now,
that's right.
right? So how is business? Is it busy at the time?
Yeah, a lot of callers now.
From all over Europe, I
In
suppose.
different places.
And some
This-
Americans,
Yes,
right? And
That's right.
DeValera knew your mother and father very well.
I wouldn't know that now, like, you know.
Yes.
It's,
And knew all the Daidys, all the
wouldn't
Daidy
know.
families, because they were very important people in his life, and they all went to school together. So Nora Daidy is one of the oldest members, oldest families in the district. We grew up together. Isn't that right, Nora?
That's
And
right.
we had great times. It's lovely to come back home and talk to you. I love to meet you every time I come back, and I always call to see you and to call to see all the neighbours. So now we'll show you some pictures. Would you like to see the fireplace? This is Nora. This is the fireplace, isn't it? You
That's
used
right.
did you bake bread here?
No, I didn't
No,
actually,
no, but
because
well, you
they
boiled
had
the
a
kettle for them,
they had a cooker in there
and
for years.
you
like
always
here.
boiled the kettle for them, didn't you?
They had-
And you made the tea. And I believe that you used to help out here when Lizzie was teaching in the school in Rockhill. Am I right?
Sometimes.
Sometimes you did indeed.
Sometimes.
Nora, you're very humble.
Sometimes.
You did it many, many times. And I
Sometimes.
must congratulate you on the way you have taken care of this beautiful home. I'm so pleased to come back and see it so lovely.
It's the public works to do the painting
so
and
much.
like and that.
Well, now we have
All I have to do is
upstairs.
open the door.
The bells, no, Mary.
Pardon? The bells.
The bells.
Yeah.
Right, yes. Joan used to blow the bells, my sister Joan. If the kettle wasn't boiling, they would say, Joan, will you blow the bells
Oh,
for
yes,
us?
we used to buy the potatoes.
Yes, indeed. And make the tea for us.
Yes, we
Yes.
had great times. And we used to have the cheese, and when Mr. DeValera would come, Mrs. Maher, his cousin, would always ask Breda, my other sister, and myself, and we would come over and serve the teas. And the big thing then was the car, getting into the car and coming over across
Or the state
the
car.
state car
Mm.
to visit my father and mother over across. The photos there of the state car, which maybe you can't see the
Yes.
photos.
Now I would like to show you some of the photos here. Now, this photograph here is President DeValera here, and his first cousin Lizzie, husband Martin, and this is Martin who's here today. And it was in 1948, and they were going out to DeValera and Frank Aiken were going out to Australia to visit Mama's first cousin, Archbishop Mannix, who did a lot for Ireland. And they went to Shannon Airport to see them off. That was in 1948. And I love that photograph. Now I'll just show you quickly all the other photos. This one here. Now, my dearest mother, Doorty Cagney Sheehan. And Breda, my sister Breda Sheehan. Bill Murphy in Bruree was a great Fianna Fáil man. This lady here happens to be Uncle Ned Cull's granddaughter, the Ganji. She's Uncle Ned Cull's granddaughter, and she always came to see my parents whenever she came home. Father O'Keefe in Bruree, and this is my brother Jerry. Unfortunately, he died. He went to heaven in 1981, but he was my only brother, and he lived in the farm in Knockmore across the road. Now I'll just show you the next one. This one here is a beautiful photo of Martina Piggott, Joan Sheehan Piggott's daughter, and they live near Adair. They have a bed and breakfast home now, and this is Martina Piggott at my own house with President DeValera, his aide-de-camp, and his secretary Mary O'Kelly. Now I'll show you the Now I would like to show you a family group taken at Knockmore, Bruree, outside my own family home. And my husband, my late husband, who died in 1990, John Doorty, is here at the back. My sisters, Helen, Breda and Joan, are in it. I'm not in it because DeValera whispered to me And he said, Mary, would you tell Mrs. O'Sullivan we will call to see her in a few minutes? So that's why I'm not in the picture. But all my neighbours are in it. The McGraths, the Regans, Nora, Daddy O'Gorman, and all my neighbours. So it's a beautiful picture, and it's hanging now at home. No, this one. This is a beautiful letter that it's a lovely letter. It connects up Knockmore, the family who lived here in Knockmore. The O'Mahonys, they emigrated to America. He and his wife and 12 children emigrated to America back in 1885 when DeValera came here. 1882 perhaps. And DeValera came here, but they went across the ocean. And they always wrote back. They were always writing letters. But this letter is very, very special. And I shall send a copy around to all of you when this event is over. And it speaks about all the neighbours, the happy times he had. My home over here in Knockmore was the first house he visited when he was a child. He will never forget it. And he looked over and he saw the light, and he called it O'Donovan's lamp. O'Donovan was the caretaker, but he said that it is one of his first memories. And he also slinched from school one day, can you believe it? And he spent it in the stable in Knockmore over in Outcliff. That's my story.
Would you tell me about the inside of the cottage? The various rooms?
I mean, yes.
Oh, great. You can be my own personal tour guide. Oh, what a beautiful room.
This was the parlour.
I'm amazed how small it is.
Yes,
What was this room used for?
the parlour.
The parlor?
Yes.
Did this ever have a stove in it?
No, there wasn't.
No.
No, it was no.
Beautiful furniture. I'm going to follow you into the next room, and then you can tell me anything about it, because I'm very interested to hear anything.
This was the bedroom.
What room was this?
Bedroom.
Yeah? Where was the bed put usually?
Or length was this way.
Yeah.
Down there. They do the coats, see what the doors. Put in the coats.
What room do the visitors seem to enjoy the most?
Well, I suppose the kitchen really, because you know what I mean. Because, you had. I could imagine that would be the kitchen.
A lot of beautiful things there.
Yes.
Show me the things that you like in the kitchen especially.
Well, there isn't anything in particular. It's just, you know, everything is the same as it was long ago. They have the doors and the windows and all are of the same, in the same position and the same size. And you have the shutters in the windows they had put long ago, doors, to close them at night time. You have the half door, the open fire, windows.
Oh, that's connected to the floor.
Yes, there's a little tunnel along,
Oh,
and you twist this.
yep. Oh, I understand though.
One, oh, I see the sound. it.
Oh, what a pretty room.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much for a fine tour.
All right.
So here we are, the Sheehan sisters from Knockmore, Bruree, back at the National School in Bruree. It is the school where Eddie DeValera went to school, and this was his desk. And he sat here and he put his name on the desk, E.D. DeValera. So now this is Breda and this is Helen. Are you going to say something, Helen? This is where we went to school.
We went to school here until we were in 6th class, and then we went on to 2nd level. We enjoyed our days.
We had great times. Lovely people, lovely children, school children in Bruree.
Very good teachers.
And Breda was a great pupil. Wasn't you, Breda?
Yes.
Yeah. Breda turned out to be a first-class citizen. She got first prize for cookery. Didn't you, Breda?
I did.
What else did you get?
First prize.
And this is our friend Eddie DeValera. We were so lucky to know him. We knew him, he was a personal friend of ours, and he always visited my home, Knockmore, Bruree, and visited my parents. And so we are going on to visit my old home in Knockmore, Bruree, where President DeValera, he always came to see my parents, and he knew them very well. So that's it. We'll be on our way, Eddie. We are on our way to Now, this is where the Sheehan family lived, my old home in Knockmore, where I was born and reared. I was born in the room up there at that end. The house is demolished now because it was a very, very old house. They had a land league meeting in it at one time, so that will tell you how old it is. And President DeValera, he used to visit this house. It was the first house he visited when he came here as a child of 2.5. This was the first house he visited, my home. And he always came to see my parents after that. And we had many, many talks in the parlour. And he used to walk around the land. He used to walk around down by the river. And he always wanted to see the old house up here where he slinged from school one day. And he stayed in the school all day, or stayed in that house all day. So every time he came back, he said, I want to see the stable where I slinged from school. And he also planted a tree. In 1972, I asked him, would he plant a tree? It was his last visit here to Knockmore. And I asked him, would he plant a tree for us? So we were down in Ennis at the agricultural show, and on the loudspeaker they said, is Mary Doorty here? President DeValera wants to talk to you. So the newspaper people heard about it, and they all came here to take pictures and television cameras and all that. And he said, the tree I want to plant, Mary, is the mountain ash. So this is the tree that President DeValera planted in 1972. He also planted another tree by the well. He used to love the water from the well and in Knockfenora. This is Knockmore, but the spring well was in Knockfenora, and he used to draw water every day, and he loved it. So he said it was the best spring water in all of this area. So now I will say this is my last visit here today.